Hi, good. It's glad to see that everybody's here now. My name is Cynthia Shipley. I am Chase's case manager and also his reading specialist. Uh, I'm wanting to go over introductions real quick. We have Oliver Goodman. He's Chase's father. Thank you for waiting. Um, Alexander Green, Chase's mother. Matthew Posey, who is our LEA. Of course, myself, his caseworker and reading specialist. Laura Rose, she is our math specialist that Chase has been working with. And Maxwell Rogers, his OT specialist, and Lydia Birch, his speech therapy. Um, Earlier in the year, in October, Chase had his reevaluation, and it was decided at that point in time that we would take closer focus on his reading skills and have biannual assessments of how he is doing. Um, so we are going to look at his current education plan as well as what progress we've made. I'm going to quick share the data. Um, Let me quick pull up that information. I'm going to quick bring that up all the way so we can see it better. Let's go through and do our slideshow. Okay, so here we go. We have, these are the WISC scores from his evaluation. And as you can see, and these are his standard scores, that they were the average. We have our scaled scores, and then what percentile rank Chase came into. Um, and then the description of his rating, whether he was average, like his verbal comprehension, and his similarities in vocabulary, which he is wonderful at, and what areas he has needs in. Let me show you on the graph. It'll be a little bit clearer to see. Now, as you can see, his verbal comprehension is very high. He does understand quite a few things, and very close to average when it comes to his percentile. Similarities and vocabulary, they are some of his highest traits. His visual spatial items of like block design and visual puzzles, those are a little bit tricky for him. So seeing things going in together. And his picture span, he high on his percentile, and that's from his working memory. Processing speed, he's quick to process, but his coding, which is connecting of his what he sees going into his brain and what he is able to relay coming out of his brain, they are pretty low. But that might have to do with his attention issues that he has, which I do know that mom and dad said that they were giving him medication for. So that is something that is a positive, and it will help him in the future. Here we go with, these are the standard scores and how it ranks. So scaled score, if it is greater than 17, that puts them in high. Chase's scores are on average between 7 and 13 for the scaled score and 16 to 84 for those certain things. He has, this is the Wyatt scores. The sorry, I have hiccups. This particular test tests his academic knowledge. The previous tests that I went over tests his comprehension and his comprehension of items so that we can see what we can help him improve in understanding. So here we see that his reading scores are super low. This right here is Chase. Okay. These are where the standard scores are. Or no, the standard score and then his percentile. This is so far apart because of it working with different scales, and it just has the numbers. So we have his reading score. He's at 60, but it's a very low percentile. So he is considered low. His math problem solving, he's just below average. So he's actually doing quite well with his math. His reading is where our concern has been. So that's why we're having this meeting. Okay. Now, I did a few informal assessments. We did a couple of rhyming tests, and I know that this matching rhyme project, it did get put on top of these. They were not done. The auditory pinpoint games that we did, they were done before the rhyming project. I had put it by what the total number of possible rhymes. Okay, and then we also had the alphabet knowledge that was on there. This right here is the graph for the possible rhymes. As you can see, the possible rhymes, of course, are done in blue. That would have been a perfect score. He was able to identify 7 rhymes on that matching project, and that gave him a generalized percentage, which, yeah, I can't go back. Hold on. I'm going to go back to the informal assessments. Okay, so we had a 58% on that matching rhyme project. And then his auditory pinpoint on the game, he initially identified 3 of them out of 5. And then his, oh no, excuse me, 8. And then he had, that's a 38%. And then he had 50% for the following day. Keep in mind, the day before was the first day that I introduced that particular game, because I wanted to make sure he understood how the game was played rather than it just being launched on him. And prior to those days, that was also the days that I looked at his alphabet knowledge. His in order with visual cues, he is able to name 24 of them with 24 sounds. And that was also, as I said, in order. The following day, I did it out of order without any visual cues. and he was able to do 17 letter names and sounds. And those letter names and sounds were not the same letters. Most of them were the same letter, but not all of them. Some of them he was like, I don't know what it is. And I would ask, well, what sound do you think it says? T for T, but he thought it was I. So it's okay. We're making progress though. Okay. So there we go. Okay. So here's the percentage shown for the rhymes. This is for his letter sounds and letter names. Okay, again, the percentages they show as within 1 point. It's not an overall, so it always looks like it's very low on the percentage, but it truly is higher than it looks. Okay, so now we have his projected growth. So for the last 9 weeks, we've been working very intensely on his rhyme recognition because we want to get that up there. So his baseline for it was 0. He did not know any rhymes or could not identify any rhymes when we first assessed him 9 weeks ago. So we created this growth thing. I did create based on his cognitive functions being so low and the fact that he's behind on his verbalizations. And that's only because he started talking when he was 5. So we have I created a projected growth that was smaller than what it is for a standard uniqueness or someone who's in special education that is not as unique as Chase is. And this is in comparison to the general education population. So they are able to, a general education student should learn 1.5, just over 1.5 new skills for fluency within a week. Special education, that would be just a little bit over half of a skill within 1 week. I projected for Chase to be just under half of a skill. And his actual growth was that he got 1/3 of the way there within a week. And overall, his total increase, this was my projected, which was 3, just a little bit over 3.5. And he's just under 3. So I would say that he is very close to having met the full goal that we had set for him. Now keep in mind that on the next page, it is assumed that the general education student would be able to complete 3 assessment pages. Our assessment pages were 5 sets of 3 pictures showing 5 sets of 3, groups of 5, where one of the words did not match, did not rhyme with the other 2. And he was able to pinpoint them to a certain degree. I'm going to quick show you the data. And this right here is also from the baseline going up with what was projected for his growth. Okay. And here is, I did not start fully recording data for him, at least for his projections, until he started to show some growth. And that was at around week 5. We had tried various different things, and what I tried on week 5, he started getting it. So we have down his projected, or a SPED projected, a part of his projection, and then how he actually scored. And the bars in the back are all for the general education projections. So as you can see, we were gaining. He did really good this week. 2 weeks later, he was at a very high rate. He was at 3, except acknowledging 3 of them. The following week, he had changed medications. So he started having focus issues, and I'm pretty sure that might have been part of it, because it was pretty consistent across that. However, the following week, we dipped down, and that was the assessment that was being used was a series of 3 pictures that had series of 3 pictures that were presented to him where he was supposed to pinpoint which one. He was having problems, I think, identifying the pictures to the words. And when it dipped down to where he only could recognize 1 out of those 5, that made me say, hey, we need to look at this a different way. So I did try the following day to see whether or not it was actually true. We had been using dots on a board and have him focus in on the dots. So I brought back the dots to go in with the pictures. So I would highlight the picture, one of them. I would highlight the pictures, and I would have like the dots above them, and it would be like chair, frog, dog. He would repeat, we would point to the dots, chair, frog, dog, chair, frog, dog. Okay, which one doesn't rhyme? Put a dot above the dot. So he would put a dot here. Okay, now transfer it with a sticker, and then he would put it covering the one. We had that, and sorry, got to get that filing done. So we had that, and his understanding of it improved. I think he needed the dots in order to help him focus, and that would explain why we had such a low dip after just 2 weeks. Next one. So we're having these goals that are done. These are 2 different goals that we have. One is for his reading, or one set is for his reading, and the next set is for his, what shall we say, is for his rhyming and his increasing knowledge of word structures. Okay, so goal number 1 for the reading, or for the letter recognition, is by the end of the IEP year, when presented with 26 alphabet letters in mixed order without visual cues, Chase will be able to correctly identify both the letter name and the most common letter sound at 80% accuracy on 3 out of 4 consecutive trials, as measured by curriculum-based assessment. So his goal for the next 9 weeks of the school year, so that means, with us being so close to the very end, I think we've got like a week and a half, we're going to actually start that next quarter when we come back to school. So by the end of that first quarter, when he is presented with 26 alphabet letters in mixed order with visual cues, Chase will be able to correctly identify both the letter name and the most common sound and the most common letter sound at 80% accuracy. Okay. With visual cues, excuse me. And the most common letter sound at 80% accuracy on 3 of 4 consecutive trials as measured by curriculum-based assessments. And then for his reading or his rhyming goals, by the end of the IEP year, when presented orally with visual aid support, with visual add-in supports, word groupings that contain 3-word and image combinations, Chase will be able to identify the word image combination that does not rhyme with the other 2 at 60% accuracy and on 3 out of 4 consecutive trials as measured by curriculum-based assessment. And then his goal for the first quarter of the year is going to be by the end of the first quarter of the IEP year. When presented orally with a set of 3 words, 2 of which rhyme, Chase will be able to identify non-rhyming words with 80% accuracy on 3 out of 4 consecutive trials. We're trying to build on that base that we've already put down, but I am also taking into account of the summer regression on that. So that's why we have it as 60% accuracy here and 80% accuracy for that short-term goal on both, well, the letters, both on 80%, which is considered mastery. Okay. Now, his strengths. Chase is a very engaging child, and the amount that he verbally communicates, I would not believe that he only started talking when he was 5. When he initiates focus on a task. So if he says, this is what's going on, I am going to focus on this, he is all in on that task. He gives his all and everything he wants to accomplish with that particular task, he does accomplish. Now, if he has to be enticed to focus on a task, he's present, but his attention, just like anything, can waver with the speed of a thought. And depending on how strong the thought is, that is determines the difficulty of getting him back onto the task that he is supposed to be doing. And he's made wonderful progress since I first started working with him at the beginning of the year. Is when we started, he only was only willing to identify 5 letters and sound combinations. Now he's able to identify, as of the data that I actually collected yesterday, 18 letter and sound combinations. So I am very proud of his accomplishments. He's been working really hard all of this year. So where he needs to improve, okay? He needs to improve on his identification of base letter sound combinations without using visual cues. So we can start moving into blending sounds together, allowing us to introduce CVC or consonant vowel consonant words. His rhyming skills, though they've improved over the last 9-week course of intervention, have a need to improve in the areas of attaching the words to both images and written words. Chase also needs to work on trying to blend letter sounds into word-like structures. Okay, these can be actual words or they can be nonsense words like mog, heb, zoc. Just putting together random letters into a CVC format. Now, things that you can do, mom and dad, to help him in achieving these goals. On his letters, we can make a game out of identifying animals or objects around the house. by the letter sound that they have. So like dog, you know, show me something that starts with the letter D. What's what says D at the beginning? Um, dog, doll, uh, duck, those things. Um, and you can label them with their starting sound. So like if it's a non I want to say alive, an inanimate object. There we go. Um, this can be done with sticky notes. So, and I'll also be sending a copy of this right here. This is our formula. Well, not our formula. This is a copy of these flashcards that we use in class. As you can see through this, I'm not going to open up these because that can end up being a big mess. So through here we have, you have A apple B bat and it goes through with a visual cue of each and every one of them. So we have game, that is fun, is the cue for that one because the kids are outside playing, they're having fun. And then we have our friend Ed. So those are some things that we've been using. That's a copy that I'm going to be sending home with Chase by the end of this week. Okay, and rhyming, with his rhyming, just like the letters, we can make a game out of rhyming things, and the rhymes don't even have to make sense. Like using trees, bees, knees, me's, we's, they all rhyme, but they don't have, not all of them are real words. So showing Chase pictures of items and naming those items with or without words written under the words, and then sorting those into things that, hey, we've got a picture of a bee, we've got a picture of a bug, like a beetle or whatever. And do they rhyme? Do they sound the same? No, here's a picture of a tree. Does tree sound the same as bee? Yes, let's stack them together. Okay. Now the lessons that I'm going to be using. So letter learning, again, I have these. This is part of the foundations group, the foundations phonics system that we use. And we started using this year. So he only had knowledge of 5 names and 5 sounds. Now he's able to recognize, as I told you before, I've just found out that it's 18 letters and sounds. 17 is what I had as the last assessment before the end of this. And we're going to work on recognizing the letters out of order. So I'm going to start jostling the alphabet around. And then we're going to start taking away those visual cues. So like one of the things I would end up doing is like, we'd be doing like A, rather than saying apple, we're just going to say A, So that's how we're going to start taking away that visual cue so he can just connect the letter with the sound. Okay. And we're going to review or remove those cues, and then Chase's progress with this set of skills will be measured by the Quick Phonics Screener, or QPS, as well as observational informal assessments. Now for working on Chase's goals and rhyming, we're going to continue working with the focusing dots mixed with the images that we've been working with. Even though he's currently at 60% accuracy with this task, we'd like to see him at mastery level, which is 80%, before we try to switch to the next area, moving him towards being able to read. Now he will read. So beyond that, we are totally on track. We have, oh man, so many steps to take, but we're making them and we're taking those steps. I would like to thank you for coming and joining us for this. Do you have any concerns about the program that we're going to be using? I see nodded heads and shaken heads of no. Okay, so I think we are good with that. At this point in time, I want to uh, thank you all for coming. And oh, I did forget to ask. We are going to be sending this out through DocuSign. Are you okay with that, or do I need to have it mailed home to your house? DocuSign is good? Okay. We'll get that out to you as soon as we'll get that finalized and get that out to you today. Um, so look forward to working with you guys further and look forward to working with Chase every day. Thank you so much. Bye.